Though we cannot be together at all times, may the blessings of our ancestors protect us. From time immemorial, from time follow the seasons, from time to seek greener pastures, seek greener pastures, seek greener pastures. Who can say that the wind does not belong to the sky? Who can say that the land beneath our feet is not ours to keep?
Hello, everyone. My name is Vinay Patel, and I'm the Executive Director of the Asian Pacific Islander Cultural Center, and I want to welcome you to the opening of our gallery exhibition and our 25th Annual United States of Asian America Festival. Thank you so much for being here. I have to stay on script here. Just a quick announcement that all of our events have ASL interpretation, but unfortunately, our interpreters tonight had a family emergency, so they were not able to come, but they have agreed to use the recording that we have and do translation afterwards, and so that will be available online on APICC's website and on YouTube. As we get started, we would like to pay respect to the fact that we are gathering together on Yelamu on unceded Ramaytush Ohlone land. As a cultural organization, we acknowledge the great debt we owe from benefiting off the genocide of indigenous peoples and wish to honor the lives and agency of the people who continue to steward the histories and futures of this land. We also pay tribute to the movement for Black lives, the injustices at the border, and the anti-Asian hate our communities are experiencing today. In the ongoing fight for racial justice and equity, APICC is here to move in solidarity against erasure of our cultural histories as part of the cultural ecosystem. APICC is one of 7 city cultural centers supported by the San Francisco Arts Commission. We are a virtual cultural center, meaning that we are a center without walls. We would like to thank Director Maria Jensen and all the staff at SOMArts that provides us a home during the month of APA Heritage. Maria could not be here today, but if you're watching at home, you'll see this. Thank you so much, Maria. You've been a wonderful sister to us, and thank you so much to all of the SOMArts staff that makes us feel like family here. So thank you. And now we have a lot more thank yous to go through, so bear with me. I'd like to thank the San Francisco Arts Commission and the staff. Many of them are here today. Jaron, Denise, Andrea. Hopefully didn't miss anybody. Comey. Oh, he gets a special one. I'd also like to thank the board of API Cultural Center who stuck with us. I don't need to look at the thing from here. Who stuck with us throughout the years, the highs and the lows. You know, one of our board members is our founding board member, Pamela Wu Kochiyama. Big round for Pam. She couldn't be here today because she's an artist and she's performing today. Yukiya Jariwaki, who's at his son's baseball, and it's his birthday today too. So thank you, Yukiya Jariwaki, and Janie Lavanda. None of this would be without our supporters: the San Francisco Arts Commission, San Francisco Grants for the Arts, California Arts Council, Zellerbach Family Foundation, Start Small, Fleischacker Foundation, National Endowment for the Arts, and all of our individual donors. And most importantly, I want to say thank you to all of our sister cultural centers, the other 7, because without a unified force, we would not have made it through the pandemic. We supported each other, and we supported all of our communities together too. So thanks to all the cultural centers. Throughout the festival, we're going to be honoring 5 organizations or their disciplines who came together to form APICC. APICC is the formation of 5 organizations that advocated for more support from the city for the Asian American community, and that's how APICC was formed. So this year we're going to be honoring Courtesy Workshop, Asian Improv Arts, Asian American Dance Performances, Asian American Theater Company, and First Voice. And most importantly, we're going to thank all of our artists who's helped guide us through the best of times and through the darkest. Thank you to all of our artists. We have a wonderful and amazing festival this year, starting off with this gallery. Please visit us online at www.apiculturalcenter.org to learn more about everything that's been going on. Now I'd like to bring up Supervisor Gordon Marr and the Director of Cultural Affairs, Ralph Remington. And if Commissioner Chuck Collins is still here, I don't know if we lost him. And it's really special because when Chuck first came onto the commission, he spent many hours with me talking about the future of the Cultural Center program, and I'm so happy that you can be here to celebrate us today. And I'd like to, hand it over to Ralph if you would like to talk. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. I'm Ralph Remington. How you doing, Supervisor? First time we met in person. Yeah. COVID, man. Damn. 25 years. Holy crap. Let's give a round of applause for that. And a couple of whoop whoops. Yeah. 25 years. No joke. No joke. 25 years is a long time for an organization to exist, and for an organization that holds the values that this organization has, and it uplifts the folks that it uplifts in this community. 25 years is something to be proud of, and something that is a beacon for all communities to follow as an example. So what APICC has done is remarkable. So my name is Ralph Remington. I'm Director of Cultural Affairs for the San Francisco Arts Commission. I'm so honored to be here with you all tonight at the Soma Arts Cultural Center to celebrate 25 amazing years of the Asian Pacific Islander Cultural Center's United States of Asian American Festival, Generations of Power. In my nearly 1.5 years in this role as Director of Cultural Affairs, I've seen firsthand just how important cultural centers are to San Francisco and the communities they serve, and the role they play to help shape and uplift our communities of color. Cultural centers are anchors within the community, and within our communities we find our voice and we find our power. I'm proud that the Arts Commission and APICC have long been partners and have worked closely together to serve, support, and uplift the API and BIPOC communities. That service to the community is more important now than ever, and I'm thankful that APICC has been and remains committed to supporting all artists in San Francisco, especially BIPOC artists. I applauded APICC for continuing the endless work of cross-cultural bridge building and responsive programming that has helped countless people over the past 25 years. I look forward to all the amazing work this organization will do over the next 25 years. And so with that, I just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you, Vinay. Thank you, community. Thank you, everyone, for supporting this vital organization that we all should be proud of. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Ralph. Next, I want to invite Supervisor Moore. Thank you so much for coming out. Supervisor Moore has been a tireless advocate for the community. I've known Supervisor Moore before he was a supervisor, and it's so great to have people from our community be able to rise up into power, into positions that you are in, and still do the amazing work that you do. So thank you so much.
Cutting edge Asian American art and culture, and really fostering critical thinking and important dialogue about the critical issues of the day. And this is so important. This festival and the work of APICC is so important for our city and for our broader region. It's very important to me and in my constituents in the Sunset District, as we're a majority Asian American district. And even on a personal level, this is just so important to me as well. I mean, like many of you, I came to San Francisco as a young person right out of college because of the vital Asian American community here. The inspiring legacy of political activism and organizing and the Asian American movement that was born here in San Francisco, and also and really also because art and culture has just been such an important part of that, our Asian American community and activism in our movement. And I think this festival and APICC are really carrying on that tradition, that goes back to the 60s, and really before that to the 30s. There's a lot of progressive organizing here in our communities. I also just want to thank APICC for all the work it does beyond just presenting this incredible festival. As Vinay mentioned, in my decades of work as a community and a labor organizer and activist in San Francisco, I've worked closely with Vinay and APICC, and really a lot of the artists that are part of this festival and part of this community on social and economic justice campaigns in our city. And APICC really has been at the forefront of advocating for equity, especially for BIPOC artists and communities, and ensuring equitable funding through Grants for the Arts and the San Francisco Arts Commission. So, and also Proposition E, that was such a groundbreaking measure we won here in San Francisco, with APICC playing a big role. So let's give a big hand for APICC and just the broad and incredible role it plays. I did want to say, out in the Sunset District, one of our big accomplishments in the past year was forming a brand new Sunset Chinese Cultural District. So this is the first, it's a 9th cultural heritage district in the city, official one, and it's the first one specifically for the Chinese community, the first one on the west side. The Sunset Chinese Cultural District is benefiting from Proposition E funding, like the eight other cultural districts, including here in south of Market Soma, Pilipinas. And look forward to collaborating with APICC and all of you on developing an art and culture component of the Sunset Chinese Cultural District as it develops. And welcome you to our public kickoff of the Sunset Chinese Cultural District. That's going to be on May 22nd, Saturday at 11 a.m. out at the Outer Sunset Farmers Market. You could contact my office for more information. And finally, I have a certificate of honor that I want to present to the Asian Pacific Islander Cultural Center and Vinay on behalf of the Board of Supervisors in the City and County of San Francisco.
I think they will take a photo real quick.
Okay.
And we have one more quick photo op. If I can ask the Arts Commission staff, the API Cultural Center staff, since it's our birthday, we have to have cake.
Oh, wow, look at that. Man,
Yeah, it's a lot of cake.
That's a lot of cake.
that's a lot of cake.
But if we can have the Arts Commission staff up here too, please.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear APICC. Happy birthday to you.
And Megan, you're prominently on the cake, so you have to come and see this. So I'd like to thank everyone. There's cake for everybody, so we're going to be cutting it back there, But I want to thank everyone for making this last 25 years possible and all your tireless work for our community. So thank you very much, and I especially want to thank all of the APICC staff as well, because could not be doing any of this without with all of you and being a colleague with you. And TJ's still not here, but thank you all. So we still got more to go, but thank you once again, everyone. Thank you, especially Supervisor Marr.
Congratulations.
Hey. All right. Yeah, I'm going to roll the cake away now. Thank you so much. All right, now that all of that is out of the way, we can now focus in on the real important piece of tonight, and that is our artists and this amazing gallery. So without further ado, I want to bring up the curator of this exhibit, Melissa Wong. Melissa, thank you so much, and I'll hand it to you.
Okay, thank you again. Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining. Can I have the panelists come up here? Suzette, Connie, Cindy, Pritika, and Shane, please. Please give us a couple minutes to seat ourselves. Want me to sit? Yeah, anywhere. Can you see everyone? Do you want to sit in my seat? No. Okay. While we're waiting for microphones, I'm going ahead and grandstand for about a minute and a half, not more than 2 minutes, including Suzette's bio, about this show that has lived in my heart for about a year and a half. So I began writing Grow Our Souls in late 2020 in the fallout of Trumpism and anti-Asian violence. I confirmed the first 10 artists shortly after the Atlanta shooting, where 6 Asian women service workers were murdered in an act of racial misogyny. For me, the questions that helped evolve the show were things like, what deep-seated issues undergird this kind of violence? What questions about race, immigration, belonging, labor, things like that? And also, in the face of such horror, how do we create works and works of beauty and hope? In my subsequent conversations with artists, and I had a lot of them because this is my first time curating, so thank you to all the artists who put up with me about that. It was clear that the artists were obviously thinking about something so much more than what was just happening in the US. The pandemic had really illuminated economic and environmental disparities between wealthy nations and the rest of the world. And so Grace Lee Boggs, the renowned labor activist, was an apt model for thinking about how we work and consume at a global scale. Who is growing our food? Who is weaving our clothing? Who is building our technology? And what spiritual and cultural practices are inspiring us to lead better lives? without a mindset towards humanity, and this includes all sentient life, we cannot rework the conditions of capitalism. And so I'm really excited today to present Dr. Suzette Min, artists Cindy Shi, Pritika Rajgaria, Connie Zen, and Shane Lohr to speak on this panel. I'm going to give a quick bio about Suzette. So Suzette Min is an associate professor at the University of California, Davis, where she teaches Asian American studies, art history, and cultural studies. She has curated for the Asia Society, the Whitney Museum of American Art, Berkeley Art Museum, Blaffer Art Museum, and the Drawing Center in New York. Her first book, Unnameable Encounters, The Ends of Asian American Art, received critical acclaim and was what I think a great rubric for aspiring curators. So if you hate this exhibition, that's actually on me, but I just want to give a plug and a shout out for Suzette's contribution to the curatorial field. Last but not least, Suzette is working on a book about art, immigration, and terrorism, and she's co-curating an art exhibition with Amy Sadao that's upcoming in 2025. So take it away, Suzette.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much, Melissa, for this amazing, fabulous, inspiring, uplifting exhibition. It's really fantastic, and congratulations to you all. Congratulations to all of you, the artists who are in the audience. I'm just, it's just nice to see everybody in person. It's so nice to see art in person. I feel like, speaking like to Connie's work about seeds, I feel like, we've been like seeds dormant in the ground, and it's time to sort of emerge and rise up through the soil and, move on to, build and envision and build a radical futurity. So I wanted to start off with another quote by Grace Lee Boggs from the same essay that corresponds with and is in dialogue with the quote behind me. Right now, she wrote this essay in 2003, I think, or 2008. And she said that time, the times were trying for our souls, and one could argue, I don't think one can argue, I think it is, been very trying for our souls in the last couple of years. And she writes that we really need to find that balance of life that respects each other, that thinks that the most important things at this time on the clock of the world is not our accumulation of things, is not economic growth, which threatens and imperils all life on this planet, including ourselves, that the time has come to grow our souls, to grow our relationships with one another, to create families that are loving and communities that are loving, to bring the neighbor back into the hood. There are so many ways in which we can grow our souls and the souls of those around us. And this exhibition is one of those ways of growing our souls. So thank you so much. And can we just give a big hand, big round of applause to Melissa. This is our first exhibition. It's an amazing feat. I think, can I say this is a labor of love, right? So this is, this is about a labor of love in terms of, really.
That was actually the first title of the show. I'm not joking. I changed it. So, yeah.
But you're just, you're creating a foundation to, for creative sustainability. When I say labor, there's a lot of multiple layers of the concept of labor in the show. There's about the labor of our ancestors. There's labor in relation to racial capitalism, transnational labor, the sense of precarity, right? But also the labor of again, imagining and creating a radical futurity. So there are a number of themes in this exhibition, including labor, techno-orientalism, the relationship to the land, mapping space and empire. And I just, I know you didn't come here to see me. You came here to see the artists. So I was wondering if each and every one of you could speak to, one, how you got involved in the exhibition, but also how does your work engage and intervene in the themes of the exhibition? And Cindy, do you mind? Sorry, because you're next to me. Do you mind going first? Okay.
I'll think about it for a second.
Okay.
Well, I met Melissa, like 2 years ago now? 3 years ago? 4 years, maybe more. Time is very fluid these days. But we just kind of geeked out over a lot of themes and books that we read, and you know, I was just really inspired by just your depth of knowledge and really profound understanding of all the things that I had been thinking about, you know. And so we hit it off, and then when you talked about the show, I was like, I'm in. I don't care what it's about, but if you're doing it, I'm in. And I'm just blown away by how thoughtful and beautiful everything is, and how powerful this work is. I mean, I can't. I mean, for myself personally, it's definitely kind of coming home. So I'm really grateful for the opportunity. Thanks.
Hi, everyone. Really excited to be in town. We flew in from Houston like not 24 hours ago, so super feeling really special to be part of this like 25th anniversary show and Melissa's first, not last, curatorial event here. I had gotten an email. When did you send the first email out? Because like I said, I don't know. Time is cyclical. We had met before, clearly, because it was just a rough time. And then
I think probably like December 2020 or something like that, or no, March maybe around 2021.
Yeah.
Everything happened over email, by the way, this show.
Yeah, so I had never
technology
met,
facilitated.
but regardless, because of what was going on in the political climate and time, no matter kind of where you were, I thought it was really important to be, I was honored to be asked to be part of this show all the way in California for, with this group of artists for visibility and attention to these poignant subjects that there isn't space for everywhere. So I was like, yes, I want to be part of this conversation, and I can't wait to share. I think you asked about, I'm going back to the question because I have a tangent issue, but I think what's beautiful about the show and the theme that I notice a lot in every work is so much body, and that comes, like, labor comes from our bodies, and it's so ingrained in all of the works, whether they're figurative or not. I love seeing the making and the relation that we all have with our bodies to the work that we make. I think it can be rare sometimes to see work that has so much like soul in it, truly. And I think as people of color, as Asian American people, as, you know, all the umbrellas of people, whatever, we're all making identity-based work because it's like in our blood, guts, and souls, right? So I'm talking about that. I'm feeling special about that right now and how that shows up for everybody, no matter what the medium is. So.
Thank you. And thank you all for being here. And thank you to SOMArts for hosting this wonderful show. And thank you to Melissa for convening such a beautiful coming together. So I also received an email from Melissa and had never met her before. And I don't think it took me like more than 2 hours to decide I was going to participate. I have so much respect for SOMArts, and it was really exciting to have an opportunity to show in this space. And SOMArts is such a crucial part of the arts ecosystem here in the Bay Area. Melissa provided a very, very enticing description of the show, and I think the minute I saw Grace Lee Boggs' name invoked in the show, I was like, yes, I'm here for it. And this show is such a labor of love in so many ways. I think like there's so, and I think the thread of labor running through the show is really exciting for me to think about, because there's obviously the labor of our ancestors and the people, the ancestors we're addressing in many of our works, but also imaginative labor and the labor that is involved in imagining other futures than the capitalist one that is really crumbling right now. And so I think, yeah, thinking about creative labor, thinking about imaginative labor, thinking about artistic labor, but also like the labor that is required to build empire is something that was very much driving some of the work that Melissa invited me to show for this. And yeah, it's really just exciting to see different ways in which we're addressing this shared theme in intersecting and diverging ways.
Hi, my name is Shang. So I met Grace Lee Boggs in 2012 at the Women of Color Conference in UC Berkeley in dialogue with Angela Davis, and that was the first time I heard the phrase, grow our souls. And so then when Melissa wrote me, again during the pandemic through email, about this exhibit, I just thought how perfect and how relevant this phrase is still 10 years after I heard it for the first time. And so I was very excited to participate, and I'm just happy that this exhibit is here today.
If you could each talk about your work. So for you two, it'd be great, Connie, if, like, for example, you could talk about, like, I saw a YouTube lecture you did, I think you did it at Berkeley. You're talking about how you talk to seeds, but you also, you really are mapping, right, the sort of migration and of plants and flora and all these kinds of things, different kinds of food. If you could talk about that. And then if you could talk, Shang, about, your work is beautiful. And the natural dyeing and the use of weeds and landscape and how you incorporate that in your relationship to the land. For you, racialized bodies are very, I think about your work that immediately comes to mind. For Cindy, the Chinese railroad workers, right, and your own body, Pritika, in terms of just, how are you thinking about labor, bodies, and your each individual art practice? Sorry, I'm always using you first. Whoever wants to go first.
Okay, we'll go this way.
Okay, that sounds great, Shang. Thank you.
So for this exhibit, I'm showing a couple pieces from my project called Dying Flora, which is a project that looks at how the environment informs and contextualizes production. And here it's production of art. So, as an artist, I see art making as my work. And so I wanted to create work that creates community and creates, a strong, positive relationship to the land. And so for this project, I'm foraging for dyes, and the pieces are residence-based, and so I'm doing artist residencies and foraging for natural dyes that come from those places, and the works that I'm showing are from Northern California, and so you'll see dyes that are created from some California natives, such as redwood trees, toyons, and so on. And so I'm really interested in, how as an artist we can create a type of work that is sustainable, that is that loves the earth, that builds a relationship where we are stewards of the land.
Thank you. Hello?
Tilted.
Hello. Oh, wow. Amazing. So weird. Okay. So I have 3 pieces in the show. They're this Lightbox piece, which is titled, We Heard the Sky Used to Be a Field of Blue. And this map here called Roots, Roots. And this installation called Seed Almanac. So the map Roots is basically, so it maps the, I guess the migratory paths of major food plants from over the past several millennia. So showing where major food plants originated from, but also how they traveled over the past several thousand years through largely human activity. And so in many ways, it's also a register of colonialism and the legacies of slavery as they are tied together with agricultural and botanical history. And for the process of making, I guess through the process of doing the research for that map, I was pretty struck by how much, how much the food that we rely on and that is made affordable to us is sometimes is in many ways affordable because of the legacies of colonialism and slavery, mostly through plantations. And so while making that, I was really struck by just like thinking about like what is the real cost of a lot of the food that we have. Like $5 for a pound of coffee doesn't really account for all the brutal slavery that accompanied the production of that coffee, you know? Really, coffee is from Ethiopia originally. And we often associate with coffee with Costa Rica and Colombia and also Sumatra because of plantations in those regions. And same with sugar. Sugar used to be a major luxury, and it's affordable because really of plantation slavery. And so while just the more and more I thought about it, the more I was just sort of just horrified and shocked to think about how much the real cost of a lot of the commodities and the food that we rely on is not accountable. There's no way to really repay any of those debts. And how can we really make moves toward a more regenerative sort of exchange? And so thinking about those histories was sort of an impetus behind the Seed Almanac project, in which I've basically been facilitating these workshops over the past 3 years, often with university classes, but I've also done it as part of Open Studios for art exhibit Open Studios, and as part of this project, I ask participants to make seeds out of clay with me, and I ask if you could have any seed with you at the end of the world or the beginning of a new one, what would it be? And it's been an amazing project. People have made over several hundreds of seeds, and the seeds sort of range from very real seeds, like avocado seeds and corn, to more speculative seeds. And that, for me, is one of the really exciting parts of the project. And it's a way for me to also have conversations about climate change and agricultural history and food security, but also colonialism and imperialism with total strangers. So I've found that this project has been a really exciting way to have sort of high stakes conversations in a low stakes way. Because people are making things out of clay with me. And so people have made seeds like abolition seeds, sovereignty seeds, seeds for building community, seeds for healing, seeds for clean water in the future, seeds for drought. And in the front over there is one of my favorite seeds, which is a coral seed. Because as part of facilitating this project, I've also asked people what's a seed that you would make for someone you love? What's a seed you would make for something you're afraid of losing? And so this project has been a really exciting way to really open up conversations about thinking about just what is a seed exactly? Really thinking about not just a seed as a physical thing, but also in this metaphorical, conceptual way, and thinking about if we could have a seed for, say, universal shelter, why is that so impossible? If we could really grow universal shelter, we could grow universal health care, we could grow all these things that our governments tell us is impossible, then what does it open up for us? So this has been a really exciting project for me to but it's also an active, imaginative, and creative labor. And so as part of this, it's very important for me to acknowledge the work that everyone has done as part of this, so I always try to attribute to provide attributions for everyone's contributions. And that third piece, that one's more personal. I made it, it's kind of like I guess you could say like a diary of the plants in my garden in the beginning of the pandemic. And when like my life was feeling incredibly disembodied and I was spending all day on Zoom or watching TV or thinking about how I was unemployed and had no money. And so like my garden was actually a very regenerative site for me. And so it's it's a little hard to tell with all the like party lights in the back, but basically the background of the painting is actually, it's like dark navy blue / black, and a model, like I guess a reference that I was using while making that piece was actually star maps, so like ancient Chinese star maps from the 8th century. And for me, like I was really interested in thinking about how, like star maps were used as a wayfaring tool in the early sort of, ages of different empires. And now, we have tech billionaires going off into space when really their money could be used to help what is happening on Earth. And so I was thinking like, it feels like such a given that like the future is in the stars, but really like what if instead of thinking about the stars, we thought about the Earth and sort of inverted that futuristic thinking from the sky to the Earth that sustains us.
Wow. Okay. I just went on a full journey with you through all of your work, and I was on the ride, so let me collect myself a little bit. I heard so many things that I was like, yes. My work are the matte paintings over there, and the video installation there. And I'll start by talking about kind of where they came from, because they were also born out of the initial COVID pandemic lockdown, March 12th or 16th or something, that we all were like, oh, it's going to be 2 weeks, it's going to be great, we're going to make some clothes and like root some onions in the window and save our tomato seeds, and we'll all go back to work. We all know how that turned out and how that's still going. But suddenly I found myself really thinking about preservation of self truly to start with. That was the seed of the work. I have been thinking about legacy a lot, and myself as an artist who hasn't procreated or have plans to procreate. It's like, okay, it's my work and my memories, and as a queer Indian woman, that is something that I so badly want to live on. And wow, way too early for that moisture. Sorry, check myself there. It's like not time for that. So I do a lot of, at the same time that I was thinking these dark thoughts, I was working a day job, so I was also, like a lot of artists do, but I was having to go into work. So that was another like part that was really deep inside. I was like, oh, and I still have to go to work. Like I work part-time in a doctor's office, so it was like, really, that was scary at the beginning. I mean, it's very scary. And so the paintings were really compilations of thinking about what is left on and what does my futurisms look like, and how can I bring all this stuff I'm interested in forward as well. Part of that is my family. So all of the fabric that's used in the matte paintings that's collaged is, I would say like 98% heirloom saris from my own mom. My aunt, I've gotten my mossies in on this. My aunties, her sisters, like the whole family network brings scraps for me or like gives me their last year's fashions. So I have a plethora of like of ways of incorporating my family, even parts of my family that doesn't have that same connection to me because of whatever stuff. But in a way, I feel like I'm incorporating them, and that's important no matter what they think about anything else that I'm holding in this body and on space. So, sorry, I'm trying to see the other, oh, there it is. The imagery is also a cross, like, conglomeration. It's images all that I've taken, whether it's me being in India, whether it's me being here, whether it's being in San Francisco outside, whether it's, yeah. And then I wanted to make up imagery too. So when you talked about creative labor and imaginative labor and space, and like, I just wanted to play also with that. Now, moving on to a more materiality, the yoga mat is, to me, kind of been absorbed into my practice as a place where like the big 3 C's collide: capitalism, culture, and class. I think, yeah. And so that I have kind of reappropriated the material that is a European invention from the late 80s, early 90s. People in India didn't do yoga on rubber. Think about how rubber is not biodegradable at all, like the opposite, you know? So it's like, they just use this. I grew up doing yoga in the park with my uncle, like on trips to India, and when I was born in New Delhi, so that's my specific talking point on this. But we did yoga on towels or rugs or even just in the grass in the park. And so it was important for me to take a material that's being dumped into landfills and claim that back and be like, hey, I can actually rescue this material from like Goodwill, from the recreational centers, from these yoga studios that are extremely white spaces, that are extremely able-bodied spaces. This practice is rooted in Hinduism, and it has that, and people don't know it. So that's really important to me when culture gets erased and bodies get erased. So all this fascination around like gardening and stuff, all of our peoples, I say that as like POC all over the world. I don't mean to flatten, but for the sake of time and space and energy, like we were all so connected to the earth and the ground and the ways, and then capitalism and imperialism and colonialism takes that and erases it. Like so many Indian people, brown people, South Asian people, Desi people are like, I've totally gone on a yoga rant now, but are disconnected from this practice and feel shame or almost like embarrassment. Like it's just such a weird thing. I started when yoga when it kind of like had a moment in the early 2000s. I found myself feeling such a weird internal like battle going into this space where there's agarbatti incense in the corner, and there's like Buddha statues, and there's a Ganeshji, and she's saying namaste, and I was just like, I can't do this. It hurts too much. It feels like painful to the body. So I wanted to celebrate. Like part of making these paintings for me was to find celebration in queerness, in putting brown bodies back on the mat, putting that imagery out there, putting selfies out there. Like we all had a lot more time with our phones over COVID and social media. So it was like, yeah, that's a thing for me. Let me put it all out there. I just want to be my whole self on these mats, because if I get COVID tomorrow and die like the news is telling me, I got that. Like that's what's gonna go on. Like there's so much in every decision that I make about the mat paintings. I'm so passionate about them, and thanks for like curating two of my really favorite pieces into the show. And then the video is kind of I do a lot of work with performance in my body and digital performance, but also in space live performance, and it's called Core Values, and I don't think it needs many words. I'm just going to leave that one at that. But I will say that the titles for the matte paintings are all off of the teabag fortunes. You think about the way that they just like repackage and resell our culture and our stories to us, and I think those little yogi tea bags are like the chef's kiss of like capitalism and commodity. They just sound so good, and it's like, ooh, okay, sure. Yeah, it's a fun little detail about the work. So I'll pass it on to the right there. Yeah.
Well, this is hard to follow. I'm just blown away. I think we all are the same wavelength in a lot of the thoughts that we have, and that's rare. So I'm really, really happy to be here. The two pieces I have on that wall is part of a series of body of work that was titled Wu Ji, which is no boundaries. So it was a body of work around migration, immigration, and labor. So the Transatlantic Railroad, we were celebrating, 2018, we were celebrating the 100-year anniversary here in San Francisco. And then I actually exhibited this show in Denver, which is where they ended the railroad. So I had actually a whole room of landscape paintings that were depicting immigration in physical form. So I thought about the materiality. I thought about dichotomy. I looked at the theme of East and West and sort of where that world collided. So I took motifs from literati painting from the 15th century, which is also a time of turmoil and rebirth. And we were also in that kind of Trump era where things were kind of chaotic, and this is 2018, so I had no idea this was all going to happen. But in hindsight, looking back, I feel like it's even more of it's just more profound, especially for myself, having gone through that experience and then my own experience, which I'll get to later. But with the show, what I was thinking was the materiality of Venetian plaster, which is what that's made of. It's a laborious process of burnishing them in small layers and layers and layers, like a fresco, but using sumi ink and traditional materials from Chinese landscape painting, and using a lot of the symbolism around utilizing landscape, different trees and ecological symbols within each panel to represent east going to west. So that panel is actually going from east to west, and then it culminates in a larger piece called The Promised Land, which is now sold, so I haven't actually been able to show that one. But in any case, as you can see, there's a little bit of the literati painting symbolism going on in each painting, and then they kind of go from east to west. But in any case, the Venetian plaster and the way that it kind of works is that, you have this plan, I draw out this plan, and then you slap on this mud, and then it kind of cracks, and it does its own thing, and you kind of work with it, and it tells the story in a way that it wants. And I felt like, to me, that was sort of a meditation in itself on how to tell the story of immigration. You have these things that your best laid plans, and then they crack and they mold, and they tell its own story, and from there things grow from it, and so the stories kind of tell themselves, and things grow from it, and there's roots, and I really made a point to hide little elements of people working inside, or, you know, I wanted to make it beautiful, like a lot of what you were saying, Connie, I think, around just making, and also just making it really beautiful, because I wanted to make a celebration around it, because a lot of what we depict about the Chinese railroad workers is one of a lot of pain and anguish, and you know, we don't need that right now. And so I wanted to make it beautiful. I wanted to make it accessible to an audience in Denver who may not be very aware of this kind of painting. And in some ways, it's kind of come full circle, and because this show about migration allowed me to really process what was happening with COVID, and it actually allowed me to go back to my family and move to LA, actually, now where I'm based, because I actually went into labor and I had a baby, and I feel like this actually, the show and doing the work actually made me really more aware of where we belong as immigrants and the community that we're a part of, the roots that we laid down, and what grows from it. And I think it's really made me think about now, you know, like you said, imagining labor in all aspects of the word, as a Asian woman, as a mother, as an artist, and joining the workforce again, and you know, working in that capacity. And I really feel like it's gonna make a rebirth of another body of work that I'm gonna, it's within me now, that I'm excited to manifest at some point soon.
Thank you. And I have to say, it's really, really so nice to see the work in person rather than on the computer screen, because the textures in all your works are amazing. And please, after this panel discussion, please go and check out the work and take your time. I think of time, I'm going to ask, I have a list of questions, but I want to ask one last question. And also, can I address it to you too? Okay. So underpinning the concept of Grow Our Souls is the idea of care. And some of you have already touched upon that term, both care and self-care. And I love that mantra, the pronouncement, I am enough. I think that's fantastic. And I was wondering if each of you can talk about care in any capacity, whether it's your art practice or the work or to the land, if you can each address that. And then I'd like to open it up for all of you.
I've failed really poor. I'm really bad at self-care right now because I have a lot going on. And I would say that that is something that I want to aspire to, because I think it's really important. But I would say, just going back to what I was saying regarding the artwork, I mean, as an artist, I feel like you're never not an artist. And so the self-care is the awareness of going back to doing the art. And for me, it's going to be a challenge, you know, with a 6-month-old baby. But I think that if we were true to ourselves and true to what we stand for as artists and as people, I have to make a conscious effort and a real effort, you know, whether that's, you know, looking for help, looking for care, looking for childcare. I need to go back to doing the artwork. That's my self-care, and I really hope you hold me to it.
Self-care in my life looks a lot like a lot of reality TV. I'm a little bit of a junkie, but because we never stop being artists, that brain like never stops thinking about the next idea or the next thing, or just like literally whatever inspiration comes from like literally everywhere, which for me it's like really trash reality TV turns off. I can like totally zone out and not work, but at the same time it's my favorite thing to have on in the studio. So the common thing is the reality TV, whether I'm gonna make to it or whether I'm just gonna like, eat boom chicka pop to it. Like, so that's one form. But I will say that I find self-care as like Asian American people, I think specifically in this like overarching minority, we feel like self-care, I think it's a generational thing to like not prioritize it. And I think that a lot of our maybe mothers or guardians or families I grew up never seeing my mother prioritize self-care ever. Ever, still not. And and I realized recently, maybe just because of COVID and time, that I find care and pleasure, and that starts in the work, pleasure in that in-between time, like in the transition time. I really have tried to slow down in just like my day-to-day, and instead of like running and like having that like type of feeling that capitalism and social media like does to us, or to me, I have really tried to check myself to, hey, let's like know that I'm gonna be hungry in an hour, and let's take the time to like chop a billion vegetables as a way of self-care, and not thinking that that's a waste of time, because it's easy to be like, oh, you're not answering emails, you're not doing the thing, you're not doing the thing, you're not taking the picture of the thing that you're doing so you can prove that you're doing the thing, like I feel really passionately about the fact that we as artists have to like show that we're working in order to prove that we're like making the art. That didn't exist before. And it's a whole added layer of like anxiety and stuff. And so it's important to find pleasure in like cooking and bathing and like really routine stuff that for me I never saw and I still don't see around me. But maybe also picking up on the fact that like showing family care and maybe thinking about like more nuanced versions of my mother and stuff. This is clearly a loaded mommy issues topic, but like she does do self-care because she cooks for, like feeds her family. Like that's important and that's her way of self-care. Okay, so I punched myself in the face, cool. But also just worked through that during this panel session. Thank you for that moment.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for bringing us into your processing. I love how it is. Yeah, I love it. I love that. I really appreciate the question of care and how that manifests, and also just thinking about care in different ways, because I think this is such a critical time to be thinking about that. I mean, not just in terms of how we are caring for our communities, but also caring for the planet that sustains us and that is the source of so much wealth that has been extracted. And I think, I feel like Cindy and Pritika both said it really well, so I'm not gonna repeat much about self-care because I completely agree that it's very important. But I guess I just wanted to share maybe like two things that I was just thinking about with regard to care. One of which is, I think, related to grief, specifically relating to grief about our ecological breakdown and how I think for me, like just allowing myself to grieve too for what has been happening societally and like throughout history, but also ecologically is, I think for me, like that opens up really crucial pathways to also just thinking about like organizing, because I mean, it's very difficult to constantly run on no energy or like, and just like grieving is, I think, an important process in orienting, or reorienting and realigning to the things that are important to you and to just like what our values are. And I definitely feel like it's an important reset for me. And I guess with regard to care, I think I had this very humbling moment a couple of years ago. I mean, many humbling moments constantly, but there was like one particular moment where it was 4 years ago, and I was in China. I'd received a few grants to work in this film, and I was very like, all right, I have this plan. I'm gonna, do X hours of work every day, and yeah, you know how it is. And I remember my mom was also in China with me at that time, and I was staying with my grandparents, my aunt, and I remember every day I was like, all right, I'm gonna be up at 7 in the morning, I'm gonna work for like, 30 hours a day, and then, and I just remember like it took me like just seeing how much domestic work, like domestic labor, my mother was doing to support my grandparents, my aunt, and also to like feed me while I was sort of wrapped up in this project that I had. And I was just thinking like, who's taking care of my mom? Like, who's taking care of her while she's taking care of like all, like 5 of us? And that really forced me to think about the amount of labor that also goes into, that goes into supporting like creative work, and how it was very humbling. And so I think, for me, like care also looked like taking moments to care for the people around me who are caring for me, and making sure that it's a reciprocal process, because like we can't do everything alone. And I think like it really drives me insane to, like read about like all these, for example, philosophers who like, so just like recently I was reading, like I was reading for school, and I was reading about I didn't think women were capable of like rational thought, and I was just like, who fed you? Fed you, cunt. Like, who like made your meals while you were writing all this stuff? And so that's something that I think about a lot with regard to like to any kind of like intellectual labor, creative labor. Like there's so much that goes into supporting that. And and I think just like also, making sure that it's a mutual form of care is really important for me.
Thank you. So I come from a culture in which, we're very textile-centric community, but, only the women were making textiles. And so as a kid, I always grew up with this, tale that men, they're silversmiths, they work with fire, they work with metals. But women work with textiles because it's something that you can do while watching the kids, something you can do at home. And I was always very angry about this until the pandemic, and then I'm like, everyone should be creating artwork in which they could make at home, and that is safe around children. And so, during the pandemic, I had to create my dyes in my kitchen. And, I had to make sure everything was safe. And so, I feel like this was a great lesson for me, and it has really changed the way I think about art making, that art making should be more feminist, should be more safe, and this is what I try to bring into my artwork.
I'll just say 2 things about self-care. So I was diagnosed with a chronic illness actually at the beginning of this year, right as we started to really dig into curation. And during installation, I remember I was still very ambitious. I was like, we are going to do a community mural within 2 weeks. Just get a bunch of strangers off the street and paint something on the gallery walls next to all of this really amazing artwork. And it happened. I hid it behind this wall, but it's there, so you can check it out later. But just 13 people just showed up all the streets. And that, to me, was self-care because I could not do it alone. And I just thought, okay, if I believe in the community, at least one person would show up, I'm pretty sure, even if that's not my sister, but one person showed up, and then another person, another person, another person. And that's what self-care looked like to me. And I also want to give a shout out to Matt McKinley if he's here, and Maxie Hay. Yes, because you like installed this. You were like, I'm stuck with this chronically ill curator who's losing weight day by day. How am I going to get all these artworks up? And you did it, and it looks beautiful. So thank you so much. And I would say the second, sorry. The last thing I would say about self-care too is having a chronic illness totally changed my perspective because then it became about conserving, right? Conservation and preservation from decay. And I actually think that doesn't align too much from a curatorial practice, so it worked out really well. But it made me really cherish the moments, right? The day-to-day things that might disappear, right? So being with my parents, actually, I asked a lot of the artists, what did our parents do, and how did it inform them as artists? And a lot of our parents were working class parents. So like my parents are here, right? And they ran a retail store for years. And that really informed how I think about self-care, that I don't. And so for me, the moments that I cherish now are like the moments at the end of the day I get to spend, time with my husband, time with my family, time with my turtle, just things that are just very simple and mundane. And it's not the most profound, but that's how I feel about self-care. So thank you for that question.
Well, you're also engaging in care in terms of curating. Think of the etymology of curating, right? And you're caring about the concept, the exhibition, the artists, the works, and you've done a tremendous job. So I'm going to open it up to you all. Does anyone have any questions? And I think I'm going to go give you the microphone, too.
Pass it around.
Do you want to pass it around? Don't be shy. Or the other artists in the exhibition, give a shout and tell us about your work too. Anybody? Thank you. Hi, Nancy.
Is this on? Oh, okay. I'm curious, because of the nature of the topic, and yet what I see on the board, it doesn't say woman artists, and yet all the artists are women. And I'm wondering if that was a purposeful curatorial choice or what, because, men need to be part of this conversation because, we're talking about the earth, and a lot of the damage done to the earth is by a male toxic masculinity, for lack of a better term.
Thank you so much for that question. Yes, it was a curatorial decision not to talk about women artists, similarly to why I didn't talk about Asian American artists. I didn't want to, for one, the artists actually didn't talk about their work, right, as Asian American artworks. One of the key objectives for designing this show is to think about community engagement, because that was something that all the artists wanted to prioritize. How do we connect and tell stories and have conversations with the community? So I asked them, what does the community look like? It was not Asian Americans, it was everyone. Everyone needed to hear our stories, right? It's like white folks, black folks, Asian folks, women, men, everybody needed to be part of the conversation. And so it was a specific decision to do that. And I don't know if, Suzette, you have any thoughts about this, because it's the question of categorizing shows as Asian American or not. That's what you talk about in Unnameable Encounters.
Whereas Nancy knows, because I just sent her this missive. My concept, my current exploration is to see if we can rethink the term Asian American and in some ways implode it or shift our perception of Asian American art beyond identity and representation. And so this is the exhibition that's happening in 2025, in which, and I'd love to have all of you participate in this conversation about really just rethinking Asian American art in a number of ways, but especially, for example, either as a relational encounter or as an entropic force. And just making it a collective endeavor. It's usually, I mean, you've done an amazing job, and usually, but the curators a lot of times is the sort of gatekeeper in many ways, and in some ways, leads the conversation. But it should be actually a very collaborative endeavor, not just with curators and artists, but also the community, which is incredibly important to think about too. Are there any other questions? Or other artists in the exhibition who would like to talk about and share your thoughts about how you got involved in the exhibition, or how your work engages with any of the themes. Also, if you guys have anything else to say, please. I do, you know what, I was wondering though, if we are gonna, close the discussion, I was wondering, Melissa, if you could say a little bit more about the other works of the show and how you organized the exhibition.
Yeah, so I actually designed this grouping to talk about abundant economies and circular consumption. So sort of, I group works by their literal and figurative representations of either landscapes of labor or labor industries, whether through critique or exploration or investigation of their practices. And so you can sort of see, like for example, Connie's work next to Jess X Snow's After Earth, to me it seemed a really like mutual sort of exploration of how we want to consider Earth as a resource that we want to replenish and regenerate, and not to continue extracting from. And similarly with the more figurative representations, I wanted the conversation to sort of move from thinking about what a sumptuous landscape of pleasure looks like for brown humanity, and into even Astra's works here, which is her vinyl installation, which is the Tang Rainbow. Astra's works, to me, it really sort of closes that conversation about belonging, right? I had started out by introducing how I had written this during a time of anti-Asian violence, and her work sort of renders that question irrelevant. The question is not why does anti-Asian violence exist, but why even in our wildest fantasies, right? Because these are depictions from science fiction. Even in our wildest fantasies, why are our imaginations of the future predicated on the demise of the East? And so, to me, these are much more potent questions. And then, last but not least, we have sections of the work that are really in deep and strong material investigations, from Rayo's work, which sources piña fiber from the Philippines, to explore new aesthetics new aesthetics that differ from colonial whiteness, to Shane's work, which I think is something that when we're really thinking about not extracting from an environment, her works really think about working in the service of nature. Here I talk about working in the service of humanity, but to me, Shane's work kind of closes out that conversation in a really forward-thinking way, right? Are we even at that point to think about working in the service of nature? So I hope you enjoy the exhibition layout that sort of came together in my mind. I don't know if it'll come together in yours, but let me know.
Thank you. Thank you, Melissa. Thank you, everybody here. Congratulations to all of you. Thank you all. Please check out the show, hang out. I guess there's lots of food and wine outside. So thank you so much.
Folks hear me? Oh. We still have a few more announcements about the festival. We wanted to recognize some of the festival artists in the house here tonight. So if y'all can stick around, we're just going to do some quick shout outs. And Vinay, we're also going to pop some champagne in honor of our 25th anniversary. More happenings.
Yeah, there's cake and champagne, so don't go anywhere.
There's cake and champagne, so...
But yes, one more thank you again to our panelists, our artists, Melissa, the curator. Let's just give them another round of applause, please. My name is Melanie Alvena. I'm the artistic director of the Asian Pacific Islander Cultural Center. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for coming out today. I really appreciate it. It's been a couple years since we've been able to gather in person and have a show and have the artists. So for you all to be here tonight and just to see you know, having your presence here, seeing your faces, I honestly, I'm so grateful and I really appreciate it. And thank you for celebrating our 20th anniversary with us here. But I also want to thank Melissa, curator here extraordinaire, because almost a year ago, over email, we touched base and then we got on a Zoom call and she showed me this idea for this show with these, just this amazing work. I was blown away. And the work was so strong, and she even added more artists on top of that. And then I saw, immediately after our conversation, I was just like, yes, please curate this show for me. Please bring this show here. And then when she told me it was her first sort of larger curatorial vision, I was like, whoa, okay, totally. I totally want to support her and her work. And not only that, it's the fact that she is opening up space for conversations as well as supporting work of Asian women artists. Hello. We've been having such a difficult year of violence and all kinds of things, the pandemic. And so being able to gather in this space here and in a safe space to have these conversations and to be able to address some of the issues that not just affects our communities, but so many others and all of you here. It's just, yeah, it's amazing. And so I got something for Melissa here as a thank you. Thank you so much, Melissa. Congratulations. Yes, please congratulate her because she did such an amazing job. I never had to worry about the show. She just made sure everything was going through, even though we were both going through some personal stuff throughout the year too. But it turned out amazing, and I'm just happy to be here and celebrate this and be in the presence of all the art and the artists. So yeah, I just want to say that before we go on. But Vinay. Oh, okay, and see, Melissa's getting more flowers. Yay, Melissa. Oops, hold on. Sorry, went a little off script there, so now gotta get back on track. Where are we? Excuse me. But yes, if you didn't know, this exhibition is also kicking off our 25th annual United States of Asia America Festival, otherwise known as USAAF. That's right, that's 25 years of USAAF, and we're celebrating it with our theme, Generations of Power. Every year for the past 25 years, APICC has featured the richness of the Bay Area's AAPI artists across all artistic disciplines, from visual art, literary art, music, film, theater, dance, and more. And to celebrate this momentous occasion, we're going to pop a little bottle of champagne over here. We're popping.
This is performance art.
Performance art.
No.
Come on. Yay! So please share a toast with us.
And we're going to have champagne outside for everybody, too.
Okay. Champagne here, champagne outside. Yay.
What are we doing, Vinay? Are we doing
idea.
this? Okay.
They're toasting.
It's a happening.
It's happening. Okay, so thank you all for celebrating us and our thriving community of artists. 2022 marks a momentous anniversary this year, not just for APICC, but for the entire API arts community here in San Francisco. Since the first ever USAAF in 1998, it's been a collective effort, and we are excited to be celebrating it with some of the original nonprofit organizations that were involved in founding APICC, including First Voice, Asian American Dance Performances, both of which will be featured at our Generations of Power showcase on May 14th at Japantown Peace Plaza, and Asian Improv Arts, which celebrates its 35th anniversary this year. So please check out their showcase, Expansions Horizons at the Asian Art Museum. That's coming up, I think, is that in May? June 30th. Please also make sure to join us for Kearney Street Workshop's 50th anniversary gala, To Imagine is to Exist, and that's also happening in June. These were just the anniversary events, and now I'm gonna ask my friend and coworker here, Diana Lee, Programs Manager at APICC, to shout out the other artists and events in the festival. If you're an artist, please make sure to let the community know you're here and we'll call out your name.
Yes, hello all. We promise we're almost done, but we got a mouthful. So thank you for joining us this evening. But first off, every year, APICC selects 2 artists, an up-and-coming artist and an established artist, to commission and feature as part of the festival. And this year, we are proud to feature Macrowaves. I think I saw Dom and Robin right there. And they're putting together a multi-sensory exhibit at Swim Gallery called Breath.io. And then there's also the last Hoisan poets we're also featuring, including the legendary Jenny Lim, Flo Oi Wong, and Nellie Wong to perform with Del Sol Quartet. And you can also catch them on the May 14th event, Generations of Power Showcase at Japantown Peace Plaza. What else is happening at that showcase, Melanie?
Well, there's so much more. There's so much. Also at the showcase, we have Caroline Kabading and the Autonomous Region. It's a music performance. Tashi Tamate Weiss, who's doing a multidisciplinary arts performance. Lila Youth Dance Company, if they're still here, they're doing traditional katak dance, but with it's a young women's troupe that's doing it. And please save the date. May 14th, we'll be there. But before then, we already got some events this weekend.
Yes, so this Sunday, you can catch Realms of Courage featuring Asian women composers. More Asian women, we are celebrating Asian women. Produced by Angela Han, who is also bartending tonight. And then we also, on Sunday, we also have Cuento Times by Bindle Stiff Studio, and that is happening all throughout next week through next Saturday.
And then later in May, we also have Hella Tender, curated by Vita Kwong and Carmen Chen, as part of the Asian American Women Artists Association's Emerging Curators Program. That's on May 14th. Pickles, the Bindle Stiff Kids show that is being produced by Ramon Abad. It's a puppet show at Bindle Stiff Studio. That's another one that you definitely need to check out. We're also going to be premiering the world premiere of Saamin by SF Urban Film Fest in collaboration with Nix Gire, People Power Media's Dian Ruiz, Joseph Smook, and of course it's under Soma Pilipinas. Also, we are producing Lumayo Ka sa Araw, Stay Away from the Sun by KK Silog, and that's by Kim Artesh and Kim, what's her last name?
Kim Requesta.
Kim Requesta, those two Kims.
And it doesn't stop there. APA Heritage Month for us goes through June. So in June, please come check out Piece of Peace by Megan Lowe.
Yeah, Megan.
Megan Lowe dances.
She's on the cake. Yeah.
She's on the cake. Hearts and Minds by Gappa Theater and Gappa Men's Chorus.
Yeah, Gappa.
Wise Women by Ethnotech. I think we saw
Rob
them
and Nancy
here
are
tonight.
here somewhere.
Yes.
I saw them in the crowd. So
Searching
go talk
for
to them.
Kapwa by Alchemy and Twine Productions. Convergent Waves Boston by Lenora Lee Dance, and the 18th Annual International Queer Women of Color Film Festival, and last but not least, Ritual for Thrivation #2 by Samay Productions.
Thanks, Diana. I know that was a lot. It was a bit of a mouthful. Oh my gosh, I cannot turn pages.
Is there? If you have trouble catching all of these amazing events we just listed, you can also visit our website, www.apiculturalcenter.org, where you can find our calendar. And then make sure to tell your folks about this amazing show, Grow Our Souls, which will be up here at SOMARTS until May 22nd.
Yeah. So our artists who are here today, they're wearing name tags. So please, please, please talk to them. Ask them about their events, how you can get tickets, how you can get group tickets, and how you can support them more. We have an amazing lineup this year, and I would just love for you all to be able to go out to their events and support them. This year, we're finally doing a majority of in-person events, which is exciting. So please do that. So right now, make some time to mingle with them and talk to the Grow Our Souls artists. They're here this evening too. Please congratulate them. I invite you to walk around and check out the art and make sure to get some delicious Filipino fusion burritos provided by Senor Sisig. We'll be here until 9 p.m. So
Get your cake, get your champagne.
thank you, everyone.